Imagine waking up to find one of America's closest allies quietly rewriting the global trade map, signing a multi-billion-dollar deal that not only bypasses Washington's influence, but cements a long-term economic alliance with Europe's most powerful economy. Sounds like the plot of a political thriller, right? But this isn't fiction. It's happening right now, and the world's supply chains, climate policies, and power balances will never be the same again. The question is, how did a single aluminum agreement between Canada and Germany turn into one of the biggest geopolitical shifts of 2025? And more importantly, why is the United States powerless to stop it? Stay tuned, because the answers will surprise you. Think about it, aluminum isn't just some everyday metal. It's in the cars we drive, the planes we fly, the skyscrapers we build, and even the beverage cans in our hands. It's light, strong, and, when produced cleanly, a ticket into the most climate-regulated markets in the world. And Canada produces some of the cleanest aluminum on Earth, thanks to hydroelectric-powered smelters in Quebec and British Columbia that give it a carbon footprint tiny compared to coal-powered operations in China, India, or the Middle East. That single fact is now at the center of a global economic shift. In 2025, Canada and Germany signed a metals pact worth billions. It's not just a trade contract, it's a calculated maneuver that shifts trade routes away from the United States and deep into Europe. And the most fascinating part. This was partly pushed by Washington itself. Years of tariffs and import duties aimed at protecting American industries have backfired, driving Canada to seek markets that are more profitable, more stable, and politically less volatile. It's the ultimate irony. Tariffs meant to strengthen America's supply chain are instead strengthening Canada's position in the global marketplace. Let's break this down. In 2024, Canada exported just over $18 million worth of aluminum to Germany. Not a huge figure compared to the billions in US sales, but here's the catch: those numbers are growing steadily, with a projected uptick in 2025. And Germany isn't buying this aluminum just because it's Canadian, it's buying it because it's clean. Under the EU's Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, or CBAM, imports that have high emissions face steep penalties. That means coal-powered aluminum gets slapped with extra costs, making it more expensive. Canadian aluminum, with its nearly 100% renewable energy source, bypasses those penalties entirely. That's not just competitive, it's strategically irresistible. Now imagine you're a German automaker like Volkswagen or BMW. You're under intense pressure to decarbonize your supply chain fast. Every ton of aluminum you import from Canada means compliance with EU climate rules without investing millions in offsets or costly tech upgrades. And you get it tariff-free thanks to the CETA agreement between Canada and the EU. Why wouldn't you lock in that deal? That's exactly what's happening, and it's not just the auto industry. German aerospace companies, construction firms, and even defense manufacturers are tapping into this supply chain shift. But here's where it gets interesting. Germany's move is sending a signal to the rest of Europe, and they are listening. France has already expressed interest in Canadian aluminum for its aerospace sector. The Netherlands, Europe's logistics hub, is exploring long-term container contracts with Halifax. Poland is expanding imports of Canadian defense-grade alloys. Italy, Belgium, Denmark. All seeing opportunity in aligning with a stable, clean, and reliable supplier. And once these trade routes are in place, they are hard to undo. For decades, the United States has been Canada's biggest aluminum customer, buying close to 90% of its output. That dominance gave Washington leverage. But when tariffs hit in 2018, again in 2020, and then threatened again in 2025, Ottawa got the message: relying on one customer, no matter how close the relationship, was a risk. So Canada began fast-tracking deals beyond North America, not out of hostility, but out of survival. And in doing so, it has stumbled into a much more powerful position than it ever had before. Think about the ripple effect here. Every new contract Canada signs with Europe means less dependency on the US market. Every shipment of aluminum sailing past American ports toward Hamburg or Rotterdam is a subtle reminder that supply chains are not set in stone, they are fluid, and they follow trust, stability, and profitability. And when those three align, trade partners stick. But why Germany? Why not just diversify across Asia or South America? The answer lies in timing and alignment. Germany is Europe's largest economy and is undergoing one of the most aggressive industrial transitions in its history: mass electrification, green steel, renewable energy expansion, and yes, clean aluminum. They need a supplier that ticks every box: low carbon, high quality, politically stable, and logistically efficient. Canada checks all four. And with hundreds of thousands of German citizens living in Canada, and direct shipping and air routes expanding every year, the cultural and logistical ties are already there. This isn't a handshake deal, it's an anchor in a long-term partnership. And here's something most people miss: this isn't just about aluminum. Canada's trade with Germany is diversifying into mineral fuels, ores, chemicals, and high-tech aerospace components. In 2024 alone, Germany was Canada's sixth largest export market, with bilateral trade exceeding 25 billion Canadian dollars. These aren't static numbers, they are climbing in sectors where Canada has an edge others can't match under EU environmental rules. Now, let's talk geopolitics. Washington's tariffs were meant to protect American industries, but instead, they are accelerating Canada's pivot to Europe. And the US can't do much about it. Why? Because Europe is offering Canada something the US isn't: predictable, tariff-free access, and a market willing to pay a premium for clean materials. In other words, Germany isn't just buying aluminum, it's buying security against future carbon penalties and volatile supply chains. The irony runs deeper. As Canada builds new trade routes and strengthens its European ties, US industries that rely on aluminum, like aerospace, automotive, and packaging, could face higher costs as they are forced to source from countries with higher emissions or less efficient production. So in trying to shield itself, the US may end up paying more while Canada pockets the long-term gains. Let's zoom out. Since the first Trump-era tariffs, Canada has been methodically laying the groundwork for this shift, investing in port expansions in Halifax, upgrading rail lines, digitizing customs systems. These moves made it possible to pivot fast when opportunities arose. That's exactly why the Germany deal moved so quickly. Infrastructure wasn't a bottleneck, it was an advantage. But here's the bigger question: does this mark the start of a permanent economic pivot away from the United States? Or is it just smart diversification? The answer may depend on what Washington does next. If tariffs continue, Canada's shift eastward could lock in for decades. If relations thaw, there might still be room for balance. But one thing is certain: the leverage has changed. Viewers, I want you to think about this. What happens when a country that has long been seen as a junior partner in trade starts dictating the terms, choosing its customers, and bypassing old dependencies? That's exactly where Canada is headed. And for countries watching this unfold, especially those caught between competing economic giants, it's a playbook worth studying. In the coming years, expect to hear more about clean metals, low-carbon trade corridors, and carbon border taxes. These aren't just buzzwords, they are the building blocks of the next global economic order. And Canada, with its hydro-powered aluminum, is playing a bigger role in shaping that order than most people realize. So here's the cliffhanger: what if this aluminum pact is just the beginning? What if Canada starts doing the same with critical minerals for EV batteries, clean hydrogen, or rare earth elements? Imagine a network of high-value, climate-compliant exports flowing to Europe, bypassing US markets entirely. At that point, tariffs wouldn't just be ineffective, they'd be irrelevant. Before we wrap up, I want you to weigh in. Is Canada simply making the smart move any nation would make in its position, or are we witnessing a permanent realignment in North Atlantic trade? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I'll be reading every one. If you found this breakdown valuable, don't just scroll away, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with someone who thinks trade deals are boring. Because when you see the hidden power plays shaping tomorrow's economy, you realize nothing about them is boring. And trust me, this story is far from over. The next big shift might already be in motion, and you'll want to be here when we decode it.